Looking back on all that we've been through, what is left and what else could we do? We've been down this road so many times before. Will I ever learn the way? Come back to you. Certainty has taken me, and now it is a part of me. I'm falling back to where I used to be. This hush of you is overdue. Now I can see, I know it's true.
There we go. But like, so the problem is in the Japanese, everything's named after like one for one what the Japanese transliteration, like if they were trying to say the name of these heavy metal bands. So you have like the Kingdom of Metallica, the goddess's name was Anthrax, but because of like copyright issues and stuff, they've had to change the names, even in the Old English prints, to like the Kingdom of Metallica or Anthrax and stuff like that. Like they have like these different names that are kind of the same, but definitely copyright safe.
Yeah, Anthrax.
Anthrax, that's it, yeah. And it
had some pretty awesome. Go ahead.
I was saying, it's pretty funny if you know what the names are supposed to be. Like, if you know it's supposed to be metal bands, your brain can, like, click in immediately what it's supposed to be, even if you aren't familiar. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say there's some pretty awesome music in the finale of Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah. I haven't watched it.
Which I watched.
I saw random scenes from it because I walked in my brother watching it in the other room.
Yeah, there's a great scene with Metallica song. It was pretty awesome. Like, do you remember there was a scene in season 2, I think?
I have only seen the first season of Stranger Things.
Oh, okay. Well, there was a scene in either season 2 or 3 where they sang the theme from Neverending Story. It was really, really cheesy. On this one, they decided to go the other way and just play amazing music. Just have amazing music. So yeah. There's a scene where one character gets on a, electric guitar and he's playing Metallica. It's pretty awesome. So I have to say, I like this season, the Stranger Things overall, and the finale was fantastic. But you may not like it because guess what? It ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's like I don't inherently hate when something is on a cliffhanger. Though I did hear this was supposed to be like the end. I don't know why you would leave it on a cliffhanger if it's supposed to be like the end, or possibly. The end.
There's one more season.
Oh, are they bringing it back for another season?
Well, there better be one more season. Yeah.
Because I heard like after they were bringing back this part because this was potentially the end. They don't know if they're bringing it back.
Well, the way they ended it, there better be another fucking season because.
Listen, I thought they ended it.
I mean,
I thought they ended the first season perfectly. For like a Lovecraftian style story ending where like he just throws up the slugs into the sink and then it just cuts right there. It was the perfect ending. I didn't need anything after that point.
Well, this one did not end on that sort of ending where you can't just leave it. They couldn't just. I mean, basically, the whole storyline from this season did not come to a conclusion. You know.
Well, that just sounds like bad writing.
Not. I mean, unless they make another season.
Yeah.
I mean, it ended on a bit of a, you know, I don't know if you call it a low note or whatever, but
yeah. I've heard the sandwich, the 2 seasons in between this were very divisive. Where like some people liked one more than the other. Actually, I think most people preferred 3 over 2, from what I've heard, because it kind of like slooped or whatever. But also, some people it's the other way around. I don't think people can agree which of those 2 that they liked more or less from each other. But they were both lower than the first season, from what I've heard.
oh yeah. I think it kind of went down.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Okay, I remember what season 3 was about, but yeah, and it started on a high note. And season 2, season 3, I think season 4 is much better.
That's what I've been hearing. It's like across the board.
Yeah, more along the lines of season 1, even better, maybe even better than season 1.
I've seen random scenes from it. Like, because I'd walk in on other people watching it, random scenes from throughout the whole show, because family who was catching up. So like, I even think I saw like a scene or 2 from 3. No context, so it would have probably made some of the scenes funnier. Like I saw a scene where what's her L11, right? Like bash somebody's face in with a roller skate. That was pretty funny. I saw a random scene with like Freddy Krueger trying to kill somebody with like plant vines.
Maybe in someone's dream. I don't.
Yeah,
remember.
it was like a dream sequence. It wasn't actually Freddy Krueger though. I think it might have been the same actor. But it was like this dude that was like he lifts like people into the air and he kills them, but like they're in a dream while he's doing it. And
yeah, but that's not Freddy Krueger.
Looks like Freddy Krueger.
That's Vecna. That's the main.
Yeah, Vecna. Yeah, it's Freddy Krueger.
That's the main.
That's all he is.
Enemy. Is he played by Robert Englund?
He might be. I don't know. He has the same face, or at least they're trying to make him look like him.
Well, there's in part, without spoiling anything, there's part of a season where they show him before he turns into Vecna, and he's definitely played by some other actor. But I don't know if after he becomes that. I don't know what actor.
I know who he is because my brother just like basically caught me up on the entire story last night.
Yeah.
It's just like, explain it to me real quick.
Let's see. I'm trying to find. But Eddie Munson was the star of the season. He was basically they brought back a lot of the D&D stuff, and he was basically the dungeon master this season.
Yeah, is this the guy I think he was talking about where he's like he just keeps failing the 12th grade and he just wants to finally graduate?
Yeah. But he's the one running the D&D game this year, and he absolutely stole the show. He was the one who was playing Metallica in the final episode. It's awesome. Now, okay, Robert Englund actually plays a different character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Again, they made the prosthetics on the guy look as close to him as possible. So that might have been by design.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He plays a character who's related to him.
That might also be by design too, because if he's taking some other form in this dreamscape or whatever, he might be resembling the person who's related to him.
Maybe. But no, Vecna is played by Mark Steger. Whoever that is.
I do like the choice of Vecna as a name, keeping with the naming convention from the first season, where they're naming everything after like D&D monsters and bad guys.
Is that a real D&D character? Hmm. Is he like a necromancer kind of thing?
I believe he's like a warlock.
Oh, he's a lich.
Yeah.
He's
Which is fitting.
once human. Yeah, which is exactly what the character basically is in the show. It says it's an undead, once human king lich that ascended to godhood, and presumably has some sort of magical abilities.
One might even call him a Lich King.
Yeah, this is right. Ability to paralyze others with his touch. ESP. Secret. Yeah, he can basically read minds and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean that's basically what they base the character off of.
If I remember, like most Lich in general who have like psychic powers, you actually, it doesn't count like magic, so you can't use like magic force fields and stuff like that to block him from reading your mind and stuff.
Right. Like an inherent power. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can't just use like null
it.
magic, which it sucks for any like wizard who goes up against him. He's like, I'm gonna fight null magic, does not work. Why did I spec into that spell? It only works on like 3% of monsters.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I guess the only unfortunate thing, you don't have to, but I would recommend watching seasons 2 and 3 before you watch season 4. Just so you know what's going on, sort of. But I mean, I don't know. It kind of catches you up if you wanted to skip those seasons, I suppose.
You know what I think? I think I'll just speed watch it, and I'll go back from the beginning and watch every 3rd episode. That'll be fine.
Yeah. That's probably fine.
Yeah. It's kind of like I remember way back in the day, back before he became as douchey as he is now. Aaron Hansen, Ego Raptor, was at a convention. He was speaking. He was like, yeah, I started watching Bleach recently. I didn't watch the whole thing. No, actually, I just started watching random episodes, and boy, is that the best way to watch the show, because you don't understand what's going on, and it's just hype. And you're like, yeah, that's fair. That's perfectly fair, because you don't have to deal with most of the filler that way. I think some shows, if you don't actually really, like, you don't care about the cultural zeitgeist around the show, you don't want to be, like, 100% caught up and understand everything everyone's saying, a lot of shows could be fun just watching random episodes, still in order, but with, like, big skips in between. Mm-hmm. Anyway, welcome to the Vomitorium. I forgot what episode it is. I don't even know if I have the right episode number up there. I don't really care. I'll fix it.
You always forget.
I do. I put it up like half an hour ago, and then I'm just like, okay, now I got to really look for stories and stuff.
Yeah, it says 157, but I feel like
I feel like we probably did. I probably forgot to change the number.
Oh, well.
I can fix it later. That's no problem.
Well, the internet's better this time around.
Yeah, it seems so. That's good. Yeah. But yeah, what do we got to talk about? Interesting things. Oh, actually, sad thing. It's very, very sad thing. Which it doesn't sound sad on the face of it, but I think it's sad. Fire Emblem Heroes is Nintendo's first mobile game to hit $1 billion in revenue. Which I think is depressing. Yes, Fire Emblem Heroes.
Oh, Heroes. Yeah.
Yeah. Very depressing, especially given that the runner-up, the next one to it, tying is Mario Kart Tour and Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which are only 282 million.
Pretty far back.
Yeah, very far back. And the depressing number isn't that Nintendo just did something that has $1 billion in revenue. That's kind of cool, I guess. Like, I don't know how much of that's actually going to turn into usable money, but it's still cool. The sad part is what this is going to do to Fire Emblem as a franchise.
Yeah.
Right. because this game is massively successful, and Fire Emblem is not. Otherwise, like this puts the rest of the franchise at like not even a % of how much Heroes is worth, because I think the franchise is still struggling in the low millions if you add all the games together. Like, I think it only just beats out like 32 million if you put everything together. Maybe double that now, because I think Three Houses did really well. So let's just round up and say 60 million compared to 1 billion. Like, how much of a % is the whole franchise to that, you know?
Yeah. Because the Heroes is a gacha game, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. The gacha game with some of the worst pull rates out of any game, and people try to argue it's not, but they do not understand how compiled statistics work when you have multiple pools running at once. And I've explained this several times. The draw rates are actually bullshit in Fire Emblem Heroes. They're actually worse than games like Genshin Impact and stuff like that. Actually, Diablo Immortals are probably worse, but compared to games I've played, it's the worst one. It's got like the biggest defenders for such a horrible game that just plays like a watered down Fire Emblem 2. You don't even get the full experience for what it is. And it's worth $1 billion in revenue now over its lifetime.
Wow.
So we got to think.
Well,
every single Fire Emblem game is probably going to be considered a failure going forward. Everything that passes, because I mean they're not gacha games, they're not mobile games, but this is going to make Nintendo think the franchise is much more popular than it actually is. When people really like the gacha game and their waifus, people in general don't really like the gameplay from Fire Emblem.
Yeah. So they're going to basically do nothing else other than this from now on?
I don't know. I maybe. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how the next actual Fire Emblem game does. Like, Fire Emblem Warriors in general is probably going to sell better than your average Fire Emblem games, but in general, Warriors games sell better than your average Fire Emblem game. So I think that's going to be more of an aside than anything.
And Fire Emblem is a turn-based strategy game, right?
It is. It's a a chess-like game, right? It's like a war simulator turn-based game where you move pieces across a field. Same like the Wars series, which are also done by Intelligent System using a similar framework. Final Fantasy Tactics, Ogre Tactics, Disgaea, those type of turn-based games where you move them across. Yeah.
Rick is saying that I was saying that he hasn't volunteered to shill his comic book on our show yet.
Well, that's on him.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, schedule time.
Yeah, he's got my DMs and your DMs. You could just ask, like, hey, next Wednesday, next Saturday, could I come on? Or even some day in between. It really doesn't matter. I'll do like a Monday show for an interview. I don't really care.
Yeah. Why are you complaining about my complaining?
Yeah.
Speaking of gacha games, did you hear that this website Max Roll is discontinuing their support or their guides for Diablo Immortal?
I don't know what Max Roll is, but why are they doing this?
It's apparently a very popular guide website. I guess they got their start with Diablo 3.
Okay.
Created, very comprehensive guides, and they were starting to support Diablo Immortal, and basically because they think the game sucks and is encourages gambling, and they think it's terrible.
Yeah.
Just like Fire Emblem Warrior or Fire Emblem Heroes.
Oh yeah, I think it's a horrible game. I played it for probably over a year without spending any money on it whatsoever. Still, I've got good luck. I got most of what I wanted, but not everything. Not the end of the world, but the draw rate, like I'm running the numbers. And the actual compound statistics are awful for this game. And everybody I know is like dumping money and dumping money. And I'm playing it and like, dude, even compared to Fire Emblem, these maps just aren't fun. Like you only get 3 characters or whatever. I think 4 in the top maps. You get like 3 or 4 characters at a time. You're against 3 or 4 other characters, or sometimes a whole horde of things. The story is bare bones. A lot of it's like going over old events too, or the most fun stuff is going over old events from the series instead of anything that was planned to be new. The only point in doing it is for the like festival stuff, like the events that are running. That stuff is way better than the main game. It's just like a shell of what you expect Fire Emblem to be, which you kind of expect that for a gacha game, but people really like it. And I don't know why people like being held upside down and having their lunch money fall out of their pockets.
Yeah, I don't get it. I've seen Asmongold get more and more frustrated with every video he watches about Diablo Immortal that mentions it's pay to win because it's a mobile game and that's how mobile games are. And he's like, but why?
Yeah.
He's like, why are they like that? Nobody can explain.
They don't have to be like that.
Yeah. Nobody can explain why mobile games are just like, that's just the way it is. Like, why is it the way it is? It doesn't have to be.
Like, it's because it's the way to make the most money. That's why, right? They could easily make it to where mobile games are basically episodic games. They could still almost run exactly the way they are, right? Without being like gacha pay to win. And instead of supplementing the new content by people dumping money into getting characters and stuff, you could just pay $1 for the next chapter of the game. Mm-hmm. And you could keep going. And if you actually had a good game, a fun game, people would spend the $1 for the next chapter of the game over and over again. Yeah. But this way, by basically seizing onto people's innate addictions, whether it's gambling, whether it's collecting, or all the other ways that they manipulate people into playing, they can supplement shitty games with addiction.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's just because it's so easy. Well, I guess now you have to push at least on an iPhone, tap the little button. It's so easy to make purchases on those things.
Yeah. Especially Android with the Google Quick Pay. Just makes it so one tap. You even hook PayPal up to that thing. It's just...
Yeah. And here's the thing. As they have tried to get at least some people to spend more money on a game, even like they started out with what do you call them? What do you call them? It's just like clothes, aesthetics or whatever.
Yeah.
They realized that if people are going to spend a lot of money on a game, then they don't want to be beaten by people who aren't spending money. So they basically have to create this pay to win scenario where if you're a whale, they can't let you lose to a non-whale. They have to make it pay to win. Otherwise people won't spend the money because they'll be like, wait a minute, I spent all this money and I still lost, in P2P or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this.
I think a good game is one where the whales know that it's not a guarantee, it's just an advantage, right? Like, I'll say recently, I'm going to criticize War of the Vision's draw rates because they've been doing even more multi-banners, right? I don't think they're still the worst. I don't think they're as bad as Heroes is. running the compound statistics of these multiple banners. Because for the most part, all the multi-banners are still giving you the same stuff. They're just giving you different ways of getting the same stuff. If you're willing to spend a little bit more money, you have a higher chance of getting it. While it's not like a whole bunch of banners that all do different things. But it's still, they've been running multi-banners, and that frustrates me. But overall, the gameplay's good, right? Like, I actually enjoy it more than Heroes. It's the same type of gameplay, too. It's real-time, or not, it's turn-based strategy. You're moving people across the board. And if you are doing the PvP, a free player can... Oh, yeah, we're getting dips here and there. Sorry for the buffering. For the most part, it's fine, but... just getting dips. Yeah, but in PvP, a free player can beat a whale. It's not very likely. They're probably going to have all the newest, best people, but you can still beat them if you set up properly. And you have to set up properly because PvP in that game is entirely automatic, right? The AI does everything. Just to make it fair, being that it's you're not in real time playing against somebody else. You're playing against like a shadow of their loadout.
Right.
Yeah. But that's a good game. And I still have complaints about it, right? Like, that's one of the ones I put higher on the list of gacha games. And it's still, like, here compared to most games in general. You know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know why games just have to be that way.
Yeah, they don't. They just don't. I see a lot of this disappearing. Maybe we'll go back to other types of still pay to win because that's not going to go away. But at least the gacha stuff I think is going to go away soon with all these different countries kind of like hitting the head on loot boxes and stuff. We're going to go back to like straight up just microtransactions, which is, it's still probably healthier because you know exactly what you're going to get when you buy it. So you know exactly how somebody's going to kick your ass when they buy something to beat you as well. You don't see that somebody's just spending thousands of dollars to get this randomly dropped thing. It's like, no, they're going to spend the $50 on this gear set. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a little fucked up, but it's honest. It's honest fuckery, and I'm okay with honest fuckery.
All right.
Yeah. Again, gotcha games, man.
That's how they get you. They get you with the gotcha.
Yeah. What's funny too is like, that's not even what it means, right? Like everybody uses it. It's like gotcha, but like it's the Japanese turn style things. That is where the word comes from. Completely different meaning. It's fitting,
it's like
all the same.
It's kind of like the gumball machines, right?
Yeah. Or like you kids get like little slappy hands and stuff like that out of it, right? It's just, that's all it is. It's just a turn crank little toy machine.
Yeah, you get a little plastic ball with a toy inside.
Yeah. That's where the name comes from. The Japanese version's called gotcha.
Yeah. Yes, some gotcha games actually have that visual look when you open up a, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do a gotcha, whatever. I don't know what you call it. But they have a little thing that you crank it and a little ball pops out and it opens up. And
oh yeah, like I play a Bleach game for the anime Bleach, and technically everything you do in that when it comes to summoning is gotcha, but they literally, for the upgrade stuff for the characters, like the weapon materials and stuff, there's a section called gotcha where it does have the little turnstile machine and stuff. And it's super funny that they have a gotcha section when the entire summoning section is just all gotchas by definition.
Yeah. There's a game called Zookeeper on mobile that's a gotcha game that has that. And of course, Puzzle and Dragons. Yeah. Basically, you pull the arm of the little dragon and he spits out the little ball or little eggs. I don't know if that's the most famous. I know Puzzle and Dragons is very popular.
Oh, is it? I've never even heard of it.
Oh yeah, you never heard of Puzzle and Dragons?
I don't know.
Oh my god, it's huge.
Yeah,
You gotta look it up. It's
no idea what it is.
I mean, there are even Nintendo branded. There's a Mario Puzzle and Dragons. And, oh yeah, it's one of the top gacha games out there.
Is it like
Pretty
the
sure.
modern equivalent to Candy Crush, basically? Like,
Sort of.
not that it's
I'd say,
doing the same thing, but how big it is and stuff like that.
Oh, well, it's similar to Candy Crush in that it's a match 3 game.
So it's also a match 3. Okay.
Yeah, it's a match 3 where when you match 3, it creates attacks against these enemies. And
Okay.
you go through like a mission. Yeah, it's
I've
match
played a
3
game like that, where it was basically Candy Crush gotcha game where you have to beat bosses and stuff. It was a Sailor Moon one, which was pretty fun. I don't know if it's part of the same franchise or they just figured out how to do it themselves. But my problem is like those games get really boring really fast because at a certain point they basically just become bullshit. It's like at a certain point it's all RNG of like they just want you to run the same one over and over again until things happen to work out for you that you beat it. And you know this because like the setup is the same every time, the way like the field starts out. But then there's certain elements of like the way it cascades that's random. So you are waiting for things to just kind of line up with you. And the way they get you is by making you pay for stamina. So you play it more and more times. Yeah.
Yeah, there's stamina in this game. But no, this game isn't like that.
Yeah.
Because basically you create a team of I think 5 different characters. And the gotcha is to get, more characters or better ones, or to get material to upgrade your characters. And then depending on the 5 that you choose, they have different attributes that can completely change your strategy.
Oh, okay.
So basically, like, if you've got a red character, then if you match red orbs, it'll attack based on the strength of that red character. And then you can have characters that change the board to make it smaller or larger. You have characters that can have special powers to replace all of the green orbs with hearts or something that can refill your power or refill your life.
This is kind
All
of
kinds
similar
of
to like Dr. Mario World, except with multiple characters in a different puzzle system.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of like the gotcha for Dr. Mario World was just like, oh, all the different characters have different power-ups, so you can pick which one you want and stuff like that. And that's why you got to roll for them.
Yeah, no, the trick is to, in fact, there's very deep, there are websites with walkthrough or, information on these are the characters that you want to get and here's how you want to upgrade them and here's the combination that's, the best. And then they work together and, there's all kinds of stuff. Peach and I got into it years and years ago. Or we'd go to the website and figure out, okay, this character is really, you want to upgrade this one and add this ability. And it's very, very addictive. But I don't think we ever spent any money on it. I don't remember ever spending any money on it. Because you could pretty much get whatever you wanted. As far as I recall.
Yeah.
You could pretty much get any. I think money would be more pulls, but it wouldn't give you any more likelihood of a better character.
So the way it should do, and it's probably what it did do, I would consider that as a good gacha system where a free player could get everything. A paid player just gets them faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not
Time
even
for money.
in Puzzle and Dragons. I don't even know that you would necessarily get them faster. I mean, I guess because of just the volume of how many times you get to try.
Yeah. It's like if you spend money and you have a bunch of pulls, you could get the same character in like 5 minutes that might take me a couple hours to grind for. Like, that's what I mean for faster. And I think that's also a fair trade-off because that's just time for money. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's the type of microtransaction I've never had a problem with if it was done right. Is time for money. Like, I remember people complaining about the microtransactions in Dead Space 3, which I do not even think was anywhere close to the problem with Dead Space 3. But the microtransactions were literally just for the materials that you could mine in that game. And it was just like, yeah. You know, it's just for like people working all day. They want to come back and they don't have time to spend hours mining these materials. They could just buy it. And like, that's fine. Time for money. Perfectly fine. You still have to develop skill to get through the rest of the game. Like, genuinely, it's mostly a single player game. It really isn't a problem if people who spend all day working want to spend their money to not have to spend all day working, right? Like, because mining is kind of working in its own right? It's like, oh, I have to do chores in my video game after I just got off work. I don't have a problem with that. Now, the abuse is where I have a problem, right? You actually have to like do some calculations. How much of time is this money worth? Are you spending more per hour of gameplay otherwise than you're making per hour of work? Then it's probably not worth spending this microtransaction. Just go in and mine this stuff yourself.
Yeah, and with Puzzle and Dragons, you still have to be good at the game. I mean, you still have to make the matches, otherwise you're not going to progress. So you could get the most powerful characters in the game and still suck at it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's like where the problem where things like War of the Visions or even Fire Emblem Heroes, it's PvP, I believe, is also auto combat. Most games like this is like you have to do PvP auto combat to make it fair because you're not actually putting people against a live opponent. When you have auto combat PvP, then the gacha is all that matters because you just get the stronger stuff. You're not actually doing it yourself.
Yeah, the PvP in this game, there is. You can go head to head, but you take turns. If you suck. It doesn't matter how. Yeah, I mean, you know, it helps to have stronger characters on your team, but you still got to make the matches. You still got to see them and.
Well, that was like one of the problems. I'm going to say a game that's way worse than Fire Emblem Heroes. Mario Kart Tour. Mario Kart Tour is probably the worst one. I'm even worse than Heroes. It is probably the worst gacha game I've ever played. And 2 reasons for that. One, spending money doesn't actually help you win because you still have to be marginally good at the game, which should be a plus. But not in this case because of how much they expect you to spend for better characters. Like, I'm even against usually pay to win, but damn, the only way to guarantee a character in that game when it's new is to buy the character plus gems pack, right? So the gems are kind of just bonus on top of this because the character is the only reason you would buy this over the equivalent gems. And the pack costs $40. They're basically charging you $40 for a character and giving you some gems to compensate for that. And you don't get $40 worth of an advantage for buying a new character. You're probably still going to lose to a much better free-to-play player. And, like, now, I would say that's a much better system if the characters were worth, like, maybe $10 or something like that. Maybe still a lot less. I think $10 is a lot to pay for a character, but these are gacha systems. I understand how they're going to price their stuff. Maybe I would say like $2 to $5 for a character because that's how I would rate like a DLC character in a normal video game that you paid full price for, right?
Yeah.
But like $10 is probably the least they would charge in a gacha game for a character. And like you it's not worth it. It just isn't. I don't know why anybody does. And that might also be why it's only in like second place to Fire Emblem Heroes, because at least in that game, buying the newest characters and event characters does give you a clear advantage.
I mean, like we said before, people complain that video games are $60 or $70. Why would anyone spend hundreds or thousands of dollars? I don't understand.
Well, I'm not even sure that these are the same people complaining, right?
Yeah,
obviously, this is not the Venn diagram. I don't think anybody who complains about a video game being $60 or getting higher than that is going to be the same person who complains about, or, you know, like, I don't believe they're even the same camp. But I do agree in this case. I'm kind of happy mostly with the $60 price point. As long as I'm getting a game I feel is worth that $60 price point. Like, you put the effort in the game, I'm happy to give you the money for it. You know, if you feel you need a little extra, I'm fine with you charging for skins and things that don't affect gameplay. That's perfectly fine. You want to give people outfits other people don't have? Perfectly acceptable. You know what? You go crazy with your microtransactions of things that don't affect gameplay. If you want to give somebody options for a skin of different heads-up display, I really don't give a shit. That's adults. They get to spend their money how they want. It doesn't affect my gameplay. All it does is affect your wallet, game developers. That is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Go supplement the cost of your games. But I don't even want you doing that unless the core game is worth the $60 in the first place. Which a lot of these days aren't. And now we're running around with these gacha games that I don't even think if you were to strip everything from it and forced to pay a premium price for it, that they'd even be worth the $60. I think most of the best ones I've played are possibly I might spend $10 on this if this was a game. You know? Like, that's how bad the gameplay is in most of these phone games. It's like, and they're trying to supplement, they're getting thousands upon thousands of dollars from individuals, not even just like from people in general. Some individuals are dumping $1,000 on these games that aren't even worth 10.
Yeah. I mean, Diablo Immortal.
I'd pay
is
$2 for that game.
It's no better than Diablo 3. You'd be better. You'd have a better experience playing Diablo 3.
Yeah. I think you'd just buy 4. You know, if you want a new Diablo game, just buy 4 instead. You know.
Yeah. If you want a Diablo game that's pretty much this, except not pay to win, play Diablo 3.
Yeah. Or if you just want a good game instead, just go back and play Diablo 2 for the first time. Not even the remaster.
Yeah.
Go back to play the original one.
That would be even better.
But yeah, like, from everything I've seen of Immortal, I'd pay $2 for that game. That is the most I would pay for that game.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a game worth buying, developers. That's what I want. I don't care if it's free or paid. If it's worth buying, you'll get your money anyway. I'll send it to you somehow. I'll even pull a Cave Story before Cave Story Plus. If it's that worth buying, I'll donate directly to you on your site and send you a message like, "Damn, this was a good game. Keep it up."
Yeah.
Anyway, other depressing news. Persona and other Atlas games could become live-action TV shows and movies. And I'm just like, why? Why? I mean, it depends who does it. You know, if it's a Japanese studio, a lot of Japanese studios have done an excellent job of adapting like anime and video games. They might come off as a little corny and cheesy, but to be fair, so was the thing they were adapting, so it just keeps in pace. But I don't know how I feel about all these American studios trying to pick up these like licenses. Especially since Atlas is pretty much under Sega. Like, Sega does most of the global publishing for Atlas. That it'd probably be under the same license, maybe the same studios. And I don't want to see like Shin Megami Tensei get fucked up on a movie. They're not going to do that justice. That game looks dark and brooding, but then is also like funny as hell when you talk to the demons and you have to try to like negotiate them into joining your party and stuff like that, you know? They're all quirky with weird personalities and stuff.
I'm not even familiar with the Persona characters.
Other than that, you've probably seen Joker everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't think I even recognize him. I know the name.
Yeah.
That's about it.
You know, apparently they're trying to claim, I don't know if this is true, because it's a very bold statement. with how long history of video games have been around. But they're trying to claim that Joker is the video game character with the most crossovers in video game history. Like he's been in, which maybe because of mobile games, that might be true, because he's been in this game, that game, this game, this game, this game, that game, and everything. Now he's in fucking Final Fantasy War of Visions. I've got Joker, you know, it's fucking, or no, I didn't end up getting Joker. I got two of his friends. But I also didn't care to draw Joker. I just wanted the chicks. But he's in fucking Smash Brothers. He's in every fucking game. So maybe it's true. I don't know. It's hard for me to debate. I mean, the Michael Jackson's been in a lot of video games. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I would say Mario.
Mario has been in a fuck ton of games. Mickey Mouse has been in a lot of games too.
Apparently, he's not in Puzzle and Dragons. I looked it up. I'm out of focus. Here we go.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
Now, here's the problem too. I think Persona would be the thing that they'd most likely adapt. What?
Wait a second.
He is in Puzzle and Dragons.
Yes, he fucking is. Persona and Puzzle and Dragons come together for a collaboration.
Yeah. But Persona would be the thing they'd most likely adapt first. And boy, would they fuck that up. Because they're going to... Yeah, it's America, right? They're going to turn it into a high school drama, which I guess you could argue Persona is kind of a high school drama, but they're going to focus on that part primarily. And then they're going to, like, as the side note, it's going to be like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right? The movie, the remake one that happened recently, where them being teenagers is the most important part, and all of the fighting monsters and stuff is the side note to the story.
Mm-mm.
No, not the Joker, as in DC Comics Joker. Joker as in the main character of Persona 5. Just to clarify for Cross Comics over there.
Mm-hmm.
Looking good, Joker.
Here, I'll put it in the content sharing. Not that you care, but...
Listen, if I had to pick any Atlas game to turn into like a show, I wouldn't want it live action. I'd want it animated. Right? Mm-hmm. And I would want Snowboard Kids to be turned into a Saturday morning cartoon. That's what I want.
Snowboard Kids.
Snowboard Kids is the best Atlas game they ever made. It's for the N64. Well, Snowboard Kids 2 specifically is the best game they ever made. The sequel. I want them to take that and I want them to turn it into a Saturday morning cartoon. It would be way better than making a live action TV series or movie out of any of their products.
Sounds good to me. It's long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, the last Snowboard Kids they made was on the DS in like 2006 or something like that. I mean, they haven't touched that franchise in almost 2 decades.
Indeed. Man, all the news I can find is on Stranger Things.
I know, it was very disappointing. Apparently there was a guy who beat Breath of the Wild, all 120 shrines without using any of his runes.
Oh, I just saw that. Yeah.
Which is a
new
wild
speedrunning trick involving a Korok was key. How do you even...
I have no clue.
It's crazy.
Now, playing the game, I thought I found some interesting ways to solve some of the shrines. Some very, intuitive but not straightforward ways. But this is crazy because I still used runes for like every single one of them. And this is a trick called the Shrine Coordinate Warp.
Yeah, it's a glitch. It's using glitches.
Yeah. So he's not actually solving any of the shrines, technically.
Yeah, it's basically the ability to enter the wrong shrine.
Kind of feels like the Ocarina of Time bug glitch to load into the wrong room and you end up just in the last dungeon of the game.
Yeah. Funny is that they're not.
Well, there goes my connection.
But, I wonder. Go through. Oops. I was just gonna say we're gonna go through all the Wild 2.
Oh yeah. See, I was doing good.
Yep. Looks like we're back. Maybe. We're back on Twitch.
You know, we are doing better than last time for sure. Throughout the whole course of the stream so far, we've only dropped 10% of the frames, and I think it's only been in the last like 5 or so minutes. Last time, by the time we started, we were already dropping up to like 56% of the frames. Yeah, we're great.
Well, speaking of people doing... speaking of people doing crazy things in video games... Shoot, where'd it go? Here's another crazy thing. A gamer just recently beat Super Mario 64 with 120 stars blindfolded.
Okay.
The entire time. Apparently for the first time in history. And it only took him like 8 hours. No, 11 hours. He played 11 hours with no breaks. Like, did he not pee the entire time?
Catheter.
He apparently never got up from his seat. Catheter,
yeah.
I guess.
That's how Batman does it.
Bladder of glory. Yeah, this was reported by Carl Jobst. Gamer just did the impossible in Super Mario 64. 120 stars blindfolded.
You know, I'm not surprised. What surprised me is it took this long for somebody to do it. Because there's a lot of like... a lot of the speed running in that game is frame perfect, right? So it comes down to like muscle memory. And I'm surprised that even though it took him like 11 hours to do it, I'm surprised it took this long for somebody to like develop the muscle memory to be able to do the whole game blindfolded. Because I've seen entire Ocarina of Time playthroughs blindfolded, where it's all just like muscle memory. But all platforming wise, this is a little more intense than Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. Well, there's apparently a couple of stars getting 100 coins in Dire Dire Docks and 100 coins on some other stage. Can't remember the other one. That are extraordinarily difficult to do blindfolded because there's no way to normalize yourself very easily. And when you're in the water, especially in Dire Dire Docks, you're getting pulled by currents and stuff like that. So apparently that's very difficult.
Yeah,
those are like
it wouldn't just be muscle memory. You'd also have to like time it from the stage start what you're doing, because all of the current pulls and stuff start the second the stage starts. So there's different timing, like platforms moving and enemies moving and stuff like that throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, and you have to listen if you can get yourself up against a wall at a certain area, and So sometimes you have to time your movements to the music and things like that. It's crazy. So congratulations to somebody.
Does it not have the username?
Bubzia.
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 Taco Bell.
Apparently he's been working on it for like 5 years. So finally did it.
Yeah, well, congratulations all the same.
Yeah.
That is an insane feat, though. Like, actually considering what goes into it, it's pretty insane.
Yeah. I mean, talk about memorizing the whole game. Being able to visualize it with your eyes closed. Insane.
Eventually, he's just getting to the point that he can see into the Matrix.
Yeah. I wonder what his dreams are like after doing 11 hours blindfolded. I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like sensory deprivation, but not like complete. I mean, I guess it's like
Super
blind
Mario
people.
Brothers Super Show running on repeat. That's all it is. Every
Yeah.
time he shuts his eye. Buster Power!
I mean, he must be able to visualize the game like in his head. It's just crazy. Crazy.
Yeah. Let's see. So, as you could probably tell from the Discord, anybody who's been in the Discord, in the Final Fantasy chat, that I told anybody who doesn't care about Final Fantasy to feel free to mute. I was spamming news from the last live letter for 14, which is all the upcoming content being added to the game, which I care about because I've been playing a lot of the game. I'm subscribed to it. I'm no longer even just like a free player. And
Yeah.
boy, they're adding a lot to the game. A lot of stuff that I think is really exciting. It's stuff I'm gonna have fun playing. Stuff a lot of older, long-time players are just kind of, they don't care because they're done with the game. Like, I know my brother included. I know so many people that are just like, they think the game is dying, which I think is like an over simplified way of saying the game is just becoming more casual. How do you make money, right?
Yeah.
But talking about,
I mean, to me, that's
casual.
to me that's good. I mean, World of Warcraft went the other direction, and it's like, as a casual player myself, I feel like I can't even. I mean, even if I wanted to, which I don't, but I couldn't even really get into World of Warcraft anymore because all the interesting content is late game, and it's like I'm never gonna get there. So pointless.
Yeah, I think you need to be going both directions at once, which it seems like that's what they're trying to do now, from this recent content patch that's going to happen. Because a big problem is you don't want things to go too casual, because then you ostracize the players that take the game seriously, and you don't want to go too hardcore because then you ostracize the casual players, right? And you want to get as much money as possible from a like dev's perspective of we need to recuperate all the work we put into this game. So a big complaint is like most of the hard content of the game has slowly been patched out. Actually, even the bigger complaint, a lot of the identity of the jobs have slowly been patched out to more having role identity. So a lot of the jobs are getting closer to closer of you pick the role you want to play, and then the job you're playing is kind of just a skin for that role. You know, I get it. There's like 20 jobs, 19 if you don't count Blue Mage, which is a limited job. But if you play a tank, you're just playing 4 different flavors of the same class for the most part. You know, so it really doesn't matter what you're playing at this point in the game. I like playing Paladin because I can heal other people, but you can tank just as well as a Paladin, a Dark Knight, a Warrior, or the Gunbreaker. It really doesn't matter. All 4 Paladins are perfectly fine, even in like end game content. as it should be. But I mean, perfectly fine in the sense that like your rotations are going to basically look the same, and while your animations look different, you're going to be doing roughly the same thing as the other tanks. The range DPS are going to be doing the same thing as the other range DPS. Except for like the physical range will do the same as the other physical. The magical range will mostly, they're getting to the point that they're doing the same as the other magical. Right now, those are the classes that actually feel the most different from each other. The melee DPS, literally now they're all basically just doing the same rotation. It's just it's the exact same thing, standing in their face, doing the same thing. Even their like off rotation stuff is basically the same. They just look different, right? There's no functional difference between playing a monk and a samurai, or like I guess a dragoon and a reaper kind of also play the same, but it's still, you've got your 1-2-3 for single target, you've got your 1-2 for AoE, and then you've got the exact same options. They just look differently for your off global cooldowns. So a lot of the simplification of the game has been upsetting a lot of longtime players, but it's been really good, I guess, for casual players that are coming in because they really just don't want to have to think about learning a whole bunch of different things. Really simplifies what you're doing. It also makes the game easier to run for people because of the way the duty finder works, right? Where you go and you queue up and you've got, you're going to have a specific loadout. There's going to be a tank, a healer, 2 DPS, right? So if they make everything function more like roles, then it doesn't matter what class you're playing, right? You could do every dungeon with any class, period. You're not like, it's not like traditional Final Fantasy, like, oh, but I could really use elemental advantages against this boss or something like that, you know? Like, there's got to be playable with everyone. And that's been upsetting people who liked the hardcore content of the past. So they're adding more and more stuff. They've been slowly adding these Unreal challenges, which are like the hardest things in the game. Like they've been adding one at a time because it takes them a really long time to like finally craft and balance these Unreal challenges. And they're adding more Savage content, which is kind of what you do to get the equipment you need to run the Unreal challenges. So that's some of the stuff they're adding. I think that's good. I think what they need to do, though, is they need to add more challenging content earlier in the game. They need to have like a casual and challenging version of almost everything going up to keep the most number of players involved. So with that said, kind of like a little preamble, here's some of the things they're adding that I think are actually good for the game going forward. I have to scroll back to the top because I have pictures for all of this stuff. One, more Final Fantasy IV stuff. At the end of the current post-story MSQ stuff, main scenario quests, you see images of Golbez talking to these 4 elemental thrones. So you don't see the 4 fiends yet, but you know who he's talking to if you're familiar with the game. So we know that the next little bit of stuff, maybe some of the raids or whatever, are possibly going to involve Golbez and the 4 elemental fiends. That's really cool. I like that. The new dungeon that's coming out is called the Fell Court of Troya, which Troya obviously being the kingdom in 4, so we get more 4 stuff in general. That's probably related to Golbez and the 4 elemental fiends. That's all cool. Added more Savage stuff. Where is the thing? New Unreal Trial where you fight Sephiroth. I think it's Demon is his name in the original version. It's one of the 3 warring triads. They're adding like an Unreal version of that fight. But the cooler thing that's coming in, where they are going in both directions once. They're going casual, going hardcore. Like I said, they need to. They're adding these things called variant dungeons to the game. And the variant dungeon is going to be a level 90 casual play for 1 through 4 players. If you can use Matchmaker to be partied up with other people, you can run it solo. You can bring in 1, 2, or up to 3 friends with you. No role restrictions whatsoever. You can do it any combination of jobs. You can actually even change your job in the middle of the variant dungeon, which is something you cannot do in any other dungeon of the game, right? Usually when you queue up with whatever job you have, you are stuck in that job until you're done with the quest. This one, you could be like, I think we can use more healing. I'm going to switch to a healer now, you know? I like that. That's cool. The enemy strength is going to be determined by party size, so it's going to be like Borderlands, where it's like it's all balanced for one character. If your friends go in with you, well, the enemies of the world just got stronger, right? And it's going to have different routes, like a visual novel, right? You, depending on what you do in the dungeon, will lead you through different ones, and you can run the dungeon multiple times to play through all of the stories in it. You'll have like a special guest character NPC that's with you. Probably Hildebrand Manderville. I don't know who it is yet, but we think this is kind of like related to the Relic Quest stuff that I was telling you before we started the show. And it's just going to be a long, casual experience, which sounds very disappointing to the hardcore players. But here's the catch. They're also adding another path, Criterion Dungeons. And the Criterion Dungeons are basically the variant dungeons turned on hard mode, right? So it is a high difficulty challenge for 4-player parties. You cannot go in less than that. It is locked. You also can't use the party finder. You have to go in with like a set team. And it must be 1 tank, 1 healer, 2 DPS, like a normal dungeon. You'll be in the same place as the variant dungeon. It is considered savage content, so it's going to be hard. Where was the rest of it? Continued. Yeah. And in it, the main version of it is so there's a version where you can be supplemented from matchmaking. I'm looking at the harder version. There's a version where you can be matchmaked in, but you cannot resurrect from like using rays and normal ways of resurrecting people that die in this dungeon. You have a limited number of revivals per character that will be an action that you can use only in that dungeon. And defeated enemies do not revive after. But then there's an even harder version, which is that same dungeon but on Savage, where this one is preformed parties. All methods of resurrection are prohibited. Period. If you die, you're dead. If everyone wipes, you start the dungeon over. If everybody's defeated and you go back to the last checkpoint or whatever, all the enemies are revived. So it's actually like a Final Fantasy style reset where you go back to the last save point. And if you don't beat them in a certain amount of time per the area you're in, the enemies actually become much stronger. The dungeon becomes harder for you, which I think is cool. I think so far, I like the deep dungeons, which I think is a cool thing that already exists in the game, is basically just a roguelike where you level up from killing monsters and you go floor by floor by floor. There's 200 floors. But this is even cooler because the Savage content there really sounds like you're playing Final Fantasy, except for the fact that you can't use rays. That's the only thing to me that doesn't sound old school, but they're trying to make this like actual hardcore content. You should be able to use rays on people, you know? Like, the challenge should be keeping your mage alive so they can use rays on you. Because, you know, healing draws aggro, so everybody's going to want to kill the healer anyway. But I think it's cool, right? So this is their answer. Like, you guys think the game is getting too casual. Have at you.
Yeah.
But then they're going to get even more casual, because I was telling you about how the game's also becoming Animal Crossing soon. Yeah.
You have your islands.
Yeah. You just get your own little island. It's called the Sanctuary. There will be things you do there. You'll have a home base. It's an instanced area. The only way other people can go there is if you invite them to yours, or you could go to theirs. There might be NPCs running around. We don't know yet. People are asking if you could bring in NPCs to run around, like the Scions of the Seventh Dawn and stuff, and they were like, well, if you complain enough, maybe we will. So people better start complaining if they want Estinian running around the island with them. Get on those forums. But it'll be fun. It'll have no effect on the main game, which makes it ultra casual content. Maybe you'll get like stuff you can glamour, like outfits, maybe some minions or whatever, but nothing that affects gameplay. The currency used there is entirely for that place, so you're not going to be able to just grind a fuck ton of gil and bring it back to the main game with you or anything like that. It's just going to be its own little casual experience, locked behind level 90, so you have to be a paid player and grind all the way to the end of the game. But I think that's fair, because they know how many people are going to want this thing, so it'll get them to actually play through the game. You know how many casual players I know who have not beaten the game? And I'm not even talking about, like, free-to-play players that haven't beaten a Realm Reborn or Heavensward, because that's easy to get through. I'm talking about people who actively pay for this game, month by month, and they have not beaten Endwalker. I actually knew a guy who mostly roleplayed, and up until Endwalker was announced, he hadn't even beaten Shadowbringers, which was the current expansion. He just kept going through far enough to get the stuff he wanted to be able to roleplay. So I think, like, this is a good incentive to get people to actually play through the whole game.
Do you have to play with a group to beat it?
What, the game? No.
Yeah.
No. This game has
so-
been... This is like the ultra casualization of the game, right? This game has been optimized to hell that a solar player can get through it because of the duty finder. So you will end up playing with other people, but the game will find you other people per dungeon to run it with for that dungeon, and then you just say goodbye to them at the end of the dungeon because you were only queued up for that, right? So, like, and most of the game has been optimized to where you can do it without other people. There are NPCs you can do it with now. One of the things they're adding in this upcoming patch is more duty support. So what the game has is... starting with Shadowbringer, and Walker has it too, where you can queue up with NPCs to run dungeons. So it's just you fill whatever role you're filling, and then the main story characters will fill in the rest of the roles for you. And you could just go through basically every dungeon like that, with the exception of like a couple raids you're going to have to use other people. But even like the last expansion, you can even do the raids with full duty support, so it doesn't really matter. And then they retroactively added duty support to A Realm Reborn, and in this new expansion they're adding duty support to post ARR stuff, Snowcloak, Keeper of the Lake, some all the area in the vault and stuff like that, which actually that's Heavensward as well. So you're gonna have like Heavensward stuff is gonna have duty support. Which is the thing that's mostly missing. Once they catch up to Stormblood, then every single main scenario dungeon in the game will have duty support. The only thing that won't are the optional side stuff, which really doesn't need duty support. It's optional. You know, you really only need it so single players can get through the main game by themselves.
Cool.
Yeah. Which I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I feel it takes away a lot of what it means to be playing an MMO. I think a lot of what they do in this game and a lot of modern MMOs kind of take that away. I think they're like hollowing out the whole process, the actual, like what it means to play the game, the experience you get. Because I don't have a lot of memories of this game. I remember the story because I played it, but like I don't have a lot of like really fond memories of playing this game so far. Right? While when I was playing Final Fantasy XI for the first time, I had like stern memories of like experiences that happened within the first few weeks of playing that game. Even coming back to 11 with a group of people, I have some really good memories about that already in a very short period of time. And there's a lot of older MMOs that you have like World of Warcraft. Even in brief stints of playing, you develop good memories. And part of it was how hard the game was, right? Mm-hmm. And those challenges you were forced to overcome, as painful as they were at the time, force you to developing these like fond memories of it. And this game just doesn't give that to you. I think like the fondest memory I have is they were doing this event where to grind these like event currency stuff, you had to run well, there was multiple dungeons, but the most efficient way was to run Vomitorium, which was the final dungeon of A Realm Reborn. And I probably ran it a couple hundred, if not more times during the course of the event running, which maybe not a couple, maybe up to 100. I probably spent 100 hours in that dungeon over the course of like a month and a half, right? Which it would be because it takes an hour to run that dungeon, or it did before they split it up into 3 different dungeons recently. And for running in an hour, you would get 10 of these tombstones that you could turn in for special mounts and gear and stuff like that for the event. And one time, I just ended up with this troll party, and I was tanking, and they were like, okay, turn your tank stance off. Bet. I'm like, okay. And we just started doing all these wacky shenanigans in it. Like, we were all trying to huddle underneath the final boss at once. Like, we were playing a game. It's like, okay, try to beat the entire boss without ever leaving underneath his legs and stuff like that. Like, just ridiculous things. So, like, I have really good memories of that. But you have to, like, go out of your way to do fun stuff. It's not like having memories of pulling one too many mobs than you're supposed to and seeing your team almost wipe and having to zone out of there and like everybody lives, or like a Leroy Jenkins style memory or something like that. Like, you just don't get that. Mm-hmm. And hopefully some of this newer content will add that in, because the whole point of an MMO is kind of like, it's a social stress test. That's what it is. I think that's what makes MMOs fun. You have to work with other people at some point in time to get through things, and you're probably going to get very stressed out, not just from the other people, but the situations the game puts you into. And when you finally overcome it, you're going to feel very, very satisfied for having overcome the challenge of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people talk about how the original, World of Warcraft was the same way.
Yeah, it was.
They developed memories of having to overcome things that are now basically patched out of the game, so you don't have to do them anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about them. So
it's kind of sad, honestly. There's so many people, and it's because people think they don't want that experience, right? And I think they do. I think people really do. They just don't realize it in the time, because at the time it seems like an awful experience. But you develop long-term enjoyment for that experience, the reflection on it. And so like people will bitch and complain, and they'll move on to some other option and be like, no, just let me do the easy thing, right? And then they'll drop the easy thing sometime down the road because it doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
And then you've got like there's still people who've been playing Final Fantasy XI and World of Warcraft coming up on it for 20 years, right? And a lot of, like, specifically in the WoW case, a lot of them dropped the main game to go back to Classic as soon as it was announced, because like that's the game they'd rather be playing. And there's even a lot of Final Fantasy XI players that they'll occasionally pay for their subscription and go in because new content gets added, but they mostly play on private servers because a lot of them haven't rewound back to the state of the game that they enjoyed playing. And they want the hard stuff because that's what they remembered being the best part of the game, was that like ridiculousness of, okay, do you know how hard it is to form a static in a game that doesn't have like a party finder or a duty finder or anything like that? Like a team that you're going to play with all the fucking time to run content with. Like it's work to find a static, to find people you actually click with, And because it's so much work, if you don't 100% click, if it's just like 70%, you put up with the other 30% because you don't want to do the work of finding another static again. These become your de facto friends.
Yeah, it takes more work to find someone new than to teach someone that you've already found.
Yeah, for sure. And then finding like a guild, even harder to find, like a guild you actually like, that you actually like. Here, man, in the modern Final Fantasy, people just throw out free company invites left and right. I actually had the same guy. I don't know if he really needs people in his free company. He was like hounding me for a week Not like rude or anything, but like every time I'd come on or whatever, he'd send me a tell and like, hey, you want to run a dungeon or whatever, like trying to get me into his free company. And he finally just stopped because I think he realized I wasn't interested. But it's like they were trying to get me in for a week. But people just throw out like left and right. They're just trying to recruit anybody they can without even trying to like get to know the person or whatever. But like guilds used to be very, very selective about who they let in. It was like the other way around, where they would force you to run dungeons with them and stuff to see if you would click with the guild. They didn't want to just let anybody in. And I get that because, one, people who got into a guild tend to stay there because finding a good guild was hard, right? So, and it was hard to kick somebody out of guild too. Either the person who founded the guild have to kick them because it's the only person with like admin powers in the guild, or you had to leave of your own accord. And if the admin didn't care, that means everybody else basically had to bully you into leaving. That was the only way. And some people were bully proof because this was the earlier days of the internet. You know, like if you were on the early days of the internet and you stuck around, you were probably bully proof. So like getting into a guild and getting out was hard. So that's probably why the first one was hard. You had to make sure you only had people in it that you liked or were at least willing to put up with. Now it's just like people get like free company hop. Just like, not clicking with me. I'm going to go to another one. And people are just moving around like crazy. And because of like, I don't even know if I want to join one. I might just wait till like a bunch of my friends who are subscribing to the game get in. And then we'll just make our own free company instead just for the boosts. Because all it does, I think, is it gives you higher movement speed in city states. So you can walk faster. You know? But otherwise, it's like we're all going to be playing together anyway. Why do I need to run around with some other people? They've made it too easy to be a solo player that I don't even need to become part of a guild to enjoy the game.
Yeah. That's the way I like it because I apparently don't like MMOs. But they probably shouldn't design them around me then.
Probably not. You know, they should design it around people who enjoy MMOs. But the problem is because everybody's online these days, and MMOs are great places for socializing, right? That games like Second Life and stuff that really didn't hit it off back when they were new because not enough people were spending time on the internet, so their populations were low, would actually be great these days because that's what a lot of people are looking for. They're looking to come home, hop inside, find some people to socialize, their friends they see with all the time and stuff like that. And Final Fantasy XIV, because of how casual it's become over time, is kind of a perfect game for that. Except for, you know, how half the people who want houses can't get houses because they have a housing crisis. And that's probably what the Sanctuary's trying to solve, sort of, mostly. But that's how every game's gonna go. Even modern WoW, well, not to the same degree. That's nowhere even close to 14. But a lot of the things they've been trying to do to solve their declining subscriber count is adding more social aspects to the game. Even like Dragonflight is, I think, coming with a bunch of new housing options like they do with new areas. It's going to come with like more recreational areas for people to chill in and stuff like that. Like most game companies know that this is just the direction gaming's going, for better or for worse, just because that's where people are going to socialize.
Yeah, hang out with and dance with cat girls and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's why like ultimately Final Fantasy is better because they actually have sexy characters. I mean, what do you have?
Yeah.
What do you have in WoW? Night elves.
I suppose.
That's it.
Well, the blood elves. Are
Blood elf. Yeah, the blood elves are sexy. I almost forgot about that. Oh man, dude, you're playing early WoW and just walking down into like the main city and you just see a bunch of like blood elves in their underwear just dancing for money on the streets. Classic MMO experience. But that's it. Night elves and blood elves. I mean, depending on like what side you're on is your option.
Yeah.
Because the humans, they don't really look that attractive. They look very plain, right? And then every other race, they're trying to make look the opposite of attractive. Like there's probably somebody who's into it, but most people won't be. While Final Fantasy, on the other hand, every race, even the Lalafell, for better or worse, are designed to be attractive to somebody.
That's right.
And midgets need love too. That's what we got to remember.
Yep,
They're
yep.
midgets. They're not children. They're midgets. Keep the creeps
So I'm wondering
out
if
of here.
if we ever pick up the the Final Fantasy RPG again, maybe I should switch to being a Vieira or something. I don't know.
You've talked about that, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a Vera in one of my other other worlds or whatever. It's,
Yeah, since Moogles are more cute and attractive.
yeah. I don't know if and when that'll be. Maybe if I can schedule day hours. That's the problem, right? Like actually having enough time. It's hard enough for me to make sure that I have enough time to stream just our show twice a week.
Yeah.
But if I can schedule enough day hours, then maybe we'll be able to get back in once Buck gets in his house. Because apparently, out in the middle of like bumfuck nowhere, Barnesville, Minnesota, they have fiber. And I'm like, what? How do you have fiber out there? We don't even have it here, and I'm practically in the city.
I don't have fiber, but I have remarkably fast internet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's do amazing things with copper these days, I guess.
Yeah, but that was one of our
But,
bigger concerns. It's like him being out in the middle of nowhere. It's like, I don't even know if we will be able to pick it back up. Because like one of our players just won't be able
Oh.
to play.
But he does have fiber?
I
can?
think the house that he's going to will have fiber.
Oh, okay.
As an option, so yeah.
Well, do you want to see something I got that I've been waiting
Sure.
for forever? Because it's
Let's
a
see
late
it.
book.
A late book. Which book is this?
Late books. All shiny. Blade Devil. Ghost of the
Blade
Past.
Devil. That character looks familiar. Who made this book?
From Raging Golden Eagle.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I've seen this character posted before.
From Sick Fox Studios. Yeah.
It's hard to
Looks
keep up with
amazing.
everything. You like, I don't know the names of everyone, but it's like you see it in your timeline. It's like I recognize this somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks familiar. It's got a lot of nudity, I noticed. Just paging through it. Actually, the main story doesn't. But it's like if you look at this,
It's thick.
if you look at that,
That is a real book right there.
you can't really see it actually, but there's two different,
Section.
it's like there's two different books. Yeah, there's two
bound
different
books in there,
sections.
Yeah.
So there's a main book, and then there's a second story called Blade Devil Family. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, lettering, Eric Weathers, yeah. Raging Golden Eagle. And here's where,
Man, you see that name
I
everywhere.
don't know if I can show this.
Eric Weathers knocks
What,
out
Eric
everyone's-
Weathers?
Yeah, everyone's lettering. He just knocks it
Here's
out.
where, yeah. Gets a little risque in this one. So there's some boobies.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, Blade Devil finally came. It's about a year late, I think, but well worth it, I think. And came with some posters, including this one of the main character. I don't even know what the name of the main character is.
I don't either, and I've seen
it
this
is.
character on my timeline over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. I was excited to get that yesterday. I don't know if. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if it says. It probably says on the website. Oh, there's some nudity in this page. I'll have to read it and find out what the character's name is. I don't remember offhand. But yes, it's very anime inspired. I was really surprised at how incredibly successful this campaign was. Like, this one rivals. He made like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, I mean, obviously, Raging Golden Eagle had a huge audience before he started, but he was unknown in Comicscape circles until he did this campaign. And then it came out and it was like, oh my God, he made like 400,000 or something crazy like that.
Well, I mean, it's a big book. So
yeah,
and the art looks good. So hopefully it was worth the wait.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Let me see. Blade. Devil. I think it was on Indiegogo.
I don't mind so much either when an artist or just a creator period, their first book is late, because you're learning a lot of stuff when you're doing your first book. My problem is when people are continuously late over and over again. You know, like there's certain things like you can't control for sometimes, especially having to deal with like the COVID stuff. There was a lot of like delays due to that, but like you should be able to at least streamline it to where things aren't that late, because you should be getting better at it every single time you do it, outside of like things you can't control.
I mean, it was his first campaign. He made $330,000, and it was about a year and a half late. So it's supposed to come out.
It's not even that bad,
December,
considering like COVID
December
and
2020.
All that stuff, you know.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. If he, his next, and I'm willing to bet that he basically doubled the size, because that's what it looks like. It looks like it was originally half this, and he probably decided to double it because he had 5,000 backers. It's crazy.
That's pretty good.
So, I'll definitely be on the lookout for the next issue. First, I got to read this.
And we made it to the end of the show.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy the show, please share it out. And I mean it. Please share it out with somebody else who likes it. We want more people enjoying this too. You could be spreading the enjoyment around. You have the power. And if you really enjoy the show, please consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Really helps us out with our monthly hosting fee. It's a new month, new banner. You can fill that little bar up. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys later. Go watch Bastard. It's good. It's on Netflix.
See ya.